Why do I love movies like Ong Bak so much? It's simple: an accessible story, a likable protagonist, and fights of exceptional quality. Take the confrontation between Ting and Big Bear. Initially, everything seems unfavorable for Ting, especially after seeing how Big Bear treated his previous opponents. But it only takes one insult to Muay Thai for Tony Jaa to unleash his full power and take down Big Bear with a single kick. This technique radiates an aura comparable to Sung Jin Woo's, and yes, I'll continue using this reference because I'm a die-hard solo leveling fan. Tony Jaa is truly an embodiment of this aura in our world, demonstrating devastating moves not only against Big Bear, who tries to cheat by bringing in an extra fighter, but also against all the other opponents who face him afterward, notably Mad Dog. This nickname isn't given randomly, and this character proves his worth, although he's no match for the master of Muay Thai. I'd really love to see this kind of film on the big screen again. Hanuman was simply masterful. And what's even more impressive is that a significant portion of the fight was reportedly improvised, as I mentioned in a previous video. Donnie Yen and Wu Jing, being friends, apparently sent each other discreet signals throughout the alley brawl to indicate their next moves. That's already remarkable in itself. Watching these two combat legends execute such rapid attacks is a true visual pleasure, even if their movements sometimes become difficult to follow. The fact that several parodies have been created of this encounter confirms that it has its own fan community. The sequence becomes bloody toward the end, but that makes sense. The only way to determine a winner between two such talented fighters is for one of them to fall as well. General Go represented a formidable threat in Fist of Legend, 1994, but Chen was up to the challenge, even though he had to use all his resources to finally defeat his opponent. It's an extended sequence that shows us the best of both fighters, neither giving in throughout their epic confrontation. We quickly understand that General Go is a threat thanks to his almost superhuman endurance and Chen's initially futile efforts against him. Then Jet Li spends most of the fight inflicting gradual damage, eroding Billy Chow's defenses until he can deliver decisive blows, culminating in an exchange of weapons. It's truly cinematic perfection in terms of fight scenes. Of course, Jet Li was bound to impress, but we should also salute Billy Chow, who was an accomplished kickboxer. The tenacity he displays is exemplary. He simply refuses to give up, even if it means launching a surprise attack with his sword. Naturally, Chen is up to the task and manages to brutally counter his maneuvers. Or seems perfectly suited to the situation. Feng vs. Mon was really something exceptional, because what exactly is happening here? Are these two even human? Mon literally tears branches off and Feng counters him without showing the slightest hesitation. I would have probably already given up just seeing the way Donnie Yen was staring at his opponent throughout the fight. But yes, it's a thrilling demonstration of ferocity that lives up to all expectations. Ip Man vs. Barton was simply extraordinary, with both characters fighting without any respite or mercy. While it seemed that Barton would win the confrontation, Ip Man managed to turn the situation around in an almost supernatural way, overwhelming his opponent through the power of his technique and ice-cold stare. To be fair to Barton, he made Ip Man struggle even when the latter activated his final boss mode, so we should at least give him credit for that, right? You know, I was involved in a street fight about 2 years ago with a guy built like Scott Adkins, but fortunately, my 2 months of intensive karate training came in very handy. They earned me 6 weeks of free hospital food and the company of some charming nurses. This entire film essentially told the story of how Jet Li eliminated other Jet Lis to become the ultimate Jet Li. You can interpret it however you want, but the fact remains that Jet Li is indeed the one. The battle between Gabe Law and Gabriel Euler was strange to watch because we were observing Jet Li against himself. It was so impressive that Jason Statham himself seemed relegated to the sidelines. The movie was never really about him anyway, but the essence remains that Gabe completely turned the tables here. He managed to defeat Gabriel and gain the upper hand just before the dimensional portal opened, and that's what matters in the context of this sequence. The only thing I can state with certainty is that Jet Li truly reached a divine level here. Su isn't the type to be impressed by numbers, and he proves it by beating everyone who stands in his way, even that guy in the red t-shirt who seemed to feel none of the initial punches. The use of the ring was also an ingenious strategy allowing Su to emerge victorious, particularly toward the end when he takes advantage of the cage breaking to give himself more space to move. Yes, I know it starts with fighters attacking him one after another. But then, They do attack him all at once, so I have to give this scene credit for at least trying to be realistic. I'm not Bruce. Undisputed 3 comes to mind, doesn't it? Honestly, Scott Adkins should have received an Oscar just for his abs throughout this film. But I'm here to focus on Boyka's epic encounter with Dolor. The match was both exciting and difficult to watch, as it seemed more realistic than the fights we see on television. Dolor may not appear as threatening as a final boss, but his technique is undeniable, and he wasn't afraid to play dirty, as we can see when he starts targeting Boyka's injured knee. Call it cheating if you want, but in this world, everything seems permitted, which makes Boyka's ultimately easy victory all the more impressive. It's as if he literally awakened a dormant god within himself and won the fight without any difficulty from that point forward. The final attack, where he transforms his own injury into strength, was a stroke of genius, ending by incapacitating his opponent in the most dominant way imaginable. Yes, I think it's high time Scott Adkins and Michael Jai White got their rematch. Definitely an absolute masterpiece as it comes from Jackie Chan's peak period. Just look at that double kick. It's so clean and athletic, isn't it? This movie had groundbreaking storyboards and editing, extremely exciting action design, no sloppiness, and a tense and captivating plot. It can be said to be one of the most outstanding action movies in the history of world cinema, and all its fundamental aspects culminate in the mall battle. Chan becomes absolutely unleashed in his demolition work and makes sure to spare no one from his attacks. This is what Jackie Chan was capable of when it wasn't just about being goofy and funny. He could kick, but with true Giga Chad energy. Hey, just because it's a video about martial artists doesn't mean it should only feature men, right? We have Zen from Chocolate, 2008, who gives us an epic display of skills during the dojo battle. Not only does she face multiple enemies simultaneously, but she also manages to defeat Thomas despite his erratic fighting style. Yes, I know that Thomas's portrayal wouldn't sit well with modern sensibilities, but hey, he's a good fighter. I'm not going to exclude him. Zen impresses everyone with the flawless execution of her techniques, which I like to call goddess mode. Overall, it's a remarkable sequence that highlighted the very talented Yanin Jija Vismatananda, who is herself a real martial artist. That's right, these moves aren't just for show. Famous, but the man certainly knows how to execute an action sequence. The Night Comes for Us, 2018, shows him going berserk on a whole gym full of people, and he gives us some really impressive gore by literally tearing some of his opponents apart. Ito wastes no time establishing himself as the dominant force among the many others in his presence, but of course, nobody thinks about their own safety when dozens of men are facing just one, so they all get their butts handed to them. And more. Note that this scene isn't just brutal, but also sad in the context of the film. In this very gym, Ito and his friends used to relax and train when they were young, but now they're all either dead or have become his enemies. It's quite tragic. Is unleashed, then it's a matter of life and death. Let me just say that Jet Li is definitely going to dominate this video, so be prepared for more of him, okay? As far as this one's concerned, it's literally the depiction of his awakening as some god of war. All it takes is a trigger from Bob Hoskins and Danny goes ballistic on everyone in front of him. It was almost as if we were witnessing the human version of a machine gun. The man simply wouldn't stop, no matter what happened, and it was only when his boss asked him to stop that the carnage actually ended. Seriously, I don't know how they pull off all these stunts, making them look so realistic. It genuinely looks like Jet Li has brought hell upon all of his victims here. Blood and Bone as his official entry. It's not every day that you see extensive martial arts happening inside a prison washroom, but if you're Isaiah Bone, then it's a whole way of life. The guy was more concerned about getting his hands dirty than being threatened by an entire gang here. Of course, by the end of the fight, we all realize why he had no reason to worry about anything at all, and instead, we start to feel sorry for the guys who thought numbers actually mattered against a fighting specialist. And yes, you probably know this already, but I still need to mention how impressive Michael Jai White is for being able to perform his own stunts. Those kicks are all him. No stuntman needed for that. And there's also the obvious fact that he looks like he could take on the entire army by himself. Well, what about that? We have yet another entry from a prison. You'd normally believe that these facilities experience a lot of fights and riots breaking out every now and then, and you'd be correct. In The Raid 2, however, we get to see an extremely skilled display of fighting abilities from Rama. Yes, I know there are several other participants in this massive battle, and the camera focuses on all of them, but it's quite evident that Rama was the most dominant. He eliminated the biggest threats and also managed to fight against the cops without any extra padding. Plus, you need to understand just how difficult it is to fight or even move with mud everywhere. The cinematography and camera movements totally enhance the scene, which delivers well. Props to the director there. This also got me wondering. The raid movies have only a fraction of the budget compared to most other action movies, yet they're more realistic and genuinely good to watch. Why doesn't Hollywood learn a thing or two from them? He was also combating two completely different fighting styles. In the movie, these two guys are simply Morgan's henchmen, but one of them is Ron Swarenberg, who's supposed to be fluent in Taekwondo. And the other is Quan Young, who's supposed to be a master of Kaiju Fo. I may not know much about these styles, but what I do know is that they're capable of delivering one hell of a fight against Jackie, which is also his name in the movie. I really have to give it to Ron in particular, because those high kicks would have had anyone other than a martial arts legend begging for mercy. The little showdown he had with Jackie in the middle, where both pushed their swiftness to the maximum, was super impressive. And let's not forget that all of this is happening on a rooftop. It was thorough entertainment throughout, and I'm proud to say that I never got bored watching this fight, even though I must have seen it at least 100 times. Yes, I'm definitely a fan. Between Chozo and Yuji Itadori, I guess even the most popular manga artists couldn't escape the sheer brilliance of the kitchen battle between Rama and the assassin. Man, those guys really gave it their all in this fight, and it serves as a perfect illustration of what martial artists look like when they're unleashing all their skills. To be honest, I'd say both fighters unleashed their god mode on each other because it was a fight between equals. No one was really gaining the advantage until the very end when the blades did their thing, and that was probably because the plot needed to progress. Even after Rama took down his opponent, the look he gives us is one of respect and admiration for his adversary. It was almost as if he was saying, "Finally, I won." And yes, full credit to the assassin for giving us such an incredible fight with a protagonist filled with determination and violence like we're not used to seeing. It's not a short scene, and yet we remain captivated for its entire duration. The choreography was perfect. And I still maintain that I believe the actors must have landed at least a few real blows on each other in this one. It's far too realistic for those strikes not to have hit their targets. They say you shouldn't drink and drive, or even drink at all depending on your health, but Jackie Chan isn't the type to listen to others. Yes, this is the man who made the concept of drinking and fighting a trend, and this was way before the era of TikTok and Instagram. Wong finds himself in a tricky situation during the final battle of the film. Mainly because of John, played by the talented Ken Lo. Wong doesn't only have John to face, but he realizes that sobriety won't get him through this, so he pulls out the alcohol and activates his gourd mode like no other. The fight choreography is incredible, even though the final battle is supposed to contain strong elements of humor as well. Do you know what kinds of techniques he uses here to overcome his opponents? I won't be able to pronounce the Chinese words accurately, so I'll give you the English translations, okay? Wong unleashes the drunkard with inner strength, and also uses moves like the drunk woman flaunting her body and the drunk flute player with powerful wrists. No, I'm not making this up, unless of course my online translator is as drunk as Wong himself. Industry when it comes to fighting skills. That's exactly what happened with Benny Awkwardest, as the battle between him and Thomas in Wheels on Meals totally won over Jackie Chan. The abilities of both opponents were never in question, but much praise must also go to the director and production team for making the whole sequence so engaging to watch. Take it easy. Just think of it as a training session. Don't panic. We could trust the fighters with the choreography, but the ample lighting and wide angles made it much more appealing to watch. I'd even go so far as to call it the Mona Lisa of fight scenes. Although I'm sure I've said something similar about it before. Anyway, the fight goes on for a full 5 minutes, and believe me when I say that these were probably the most thrilling 5 minutes for many people back in 1984. Yes, there are some funny moments in between as well, but that's pretty much Jackie Chan's brand image at that point. It takes nothing away from the sheer brilliance Thomas displays when he goes God mode and defeats Benny by smashing him through the window. Flashpoint, 2007, gave them both significant global exposure. Sure, Donnie was more popular, but remember that this was before his Ip Man days, so it definitely gave his career a boost. Anyway, I'm not here to discuss career trajectories. I just want to express my admiration for the epic battle between Inspector Junma and Tony. Those moves were out of this world, and it's a rare case of both fighters awakening their best methods to try and outdo each other. For the most part, it's an equal battle, and it probably would have stayed that way, but they had to have the cop winning, so Inspector Jun tries to end the fight by holding Tony in a chokehold. The skills on display were definitely superior, but I have a very genuine question here. How on earth are these guys so agile and deadly, even while wearing jackets and jeans? Sometimes I can't even get out of bed properly if I sleep in my jeans, and these guys have shown enough skills to take out whole armies. I guess that's the difference in ability that nobody can achieve unless they invest years and years of hardcore training. There's God mode, and then there's bone-breaking mode. I think it's safe to say which category we can place Tony Jaa in. The Protector showed us the typical rage he displays in his movies, similar to the Ong Bak series, but the passion with which he went around breaking bones here was a different level of rage. Can you even blame him? The man has just discovered that his beloved elephant is now nothing more than a stuffed souvenir. I'd be pretty angry too, but I probably wouldn't go around breaking the bones of dozens of skilled attackers afterward. I simply don't possess that kind of skill. Cam and his elephant could easily be compared to John Wick and his dog. So the fact that The Protector came out 9 years before the Baba Yaga only adds further credibility to his character. You know, sometimes I don't understand the logic of these group attackers. You're literally witnessing one man destroy so many fighters just like you. And he doesn't even look like he's begun his destruction. So why the hell would you still want to fight him? Get out of there as soon as possible, man. Trust me, no amount of money is worth having your bones broken worse than a chiropractor would. Disrespect a legend of the field. In fact, this scene from Fist of Fury, 1972, will show you exactly what happens when you do that. Chen Zhen wasn't going to let a bunch of Japanese guys humiliate his roots, so he decided to implement the ultimate form of embarrassment by taking on an entire dojo by himself. And if that wasn't enough, he also took down the sensei of that dojo. If you look at how the fight is structured, you'll notice that Bruce Lee doesn't even use his hands for his first set of opponents. He's mainly eliminating them with his kicks and only starts using his fists after having already made a bold statement to everyone present. That sensei must have really been questioning his own teaching, especially after being humiliated himself in front of his own students. Yes, I think an apology right at the start would have saved this entire dojo from its lowest point in history. Here's a fun fact for you. This movie was a hit in Japan, even though the Japanese are portrayed as the antagonists. The fact that Japanese audiences love Bruce speaks volumes about his influence as a martial artist and actor. Reason to do so. Plus, Donnie Yen gets the honor of starting and finishing the video, and why shouldn't he? After all, he's an extremely skilled martial artist, and even though there have been other legends who have dominated this list, especially Jet Li, I simply can't help but place this at the top of the ranking. I mean, Ip Man is a classic, and the takedown of 10 karate black belts with minimum effort is probably the coldest fight you'll ever see from him. Ip Man had a lot on his mind as he methodically and tactically destroyed his opponents, and his expression says it all, doesn't it? For a man to be so structured and calculated in such a brutal assault is actually much deadlier than perhaps even seeing the Hulk go on a rampage. That's because Ip Man makes you wonder just how powerful and destructive he can be. When he wants to be. It's aura farming at maximum potential, and you know that fans simply can't get enough of it.